Mondays with Mark Allen. Welcome back, everybody. Today's Monday. 2 days ago would have been the IRONMAN World Championships in Hawaii 2021. Postponed once again, second year in a row. It's kind of like having New Year's but going to bed at 9 o'clock. It's sort of this amazing event that normally takes place did not. And it really got me sort of just reflecting back on what is it that's so incredible and amazing about the race in Hawaii, the Ironman in Hawaii. It's a lesson. It's a playbook for life. It's a school of the universe that teaches you something that you would have never ever learned anywhere else on the planet had you not done the race there. The first 6 years that I raced, as you know, a lot of you, I did not win. There were years where I thought I was ready to win, but I didn't. The first year was kind of unusual. 1982, halfway through the bike ride, I was with Dave Scott in the lead of the race. He was the best guy in the world. It was my first Ironman. Shortly after that, my derailleur broke. I didn't finish, but I had been with the best guy. The big island of Hawaii has a way of showing you amazement, showing you a window into possibility and your own potential that maybe you didn't even know that you had. The next 5 years after that, I spent trying to become that champion of the race. It didn't go the way I'd hoped. 6 years total, 5 years in a row, I am trying to win. I could be in the lead at the end of the bike, halfway through the marathon, with just miles to go in the marathon, but I couldn't hold it all the way to the finish. Part of me was cynical, like, why did I have to go through all those years of not winning to finally win? But there were amazing lessons learned in those years. In 1987, my fifth Ironman, I thought I was ready to be the champion. 10 miles to go, I had a 5-minute gap on Dave Scott, the best guy in the world. I thought there's no way he can catch me. But 2 miles later, my body was going downhill, and I knew it was just a matter of time because I was going to have to start walking. My body was not absorbing my nutrition. I went from being the leader, thinking I had the championship, to walking, to seeing Dave Scott pass me, to then asking myself, what do I do now? Should I just throw in the towel? What would give this purpose? And I thought, I'm going to find purpose here. My body's working at about 20% of what I could possibly do. I'm walking right now, but I'm going to give everything I have. I'm going to give 100% of what I have to give. And if I can jog again at some point here in the next mile or two, I'm going to do that as long as I can, and then I'll walk again. But I'm going to go as fast as I can, even in this 20% situation. That was a skill, a tool, a key that enabled me to win the 6 years that I did, because in every one of my wins, there were moments where I was definitely not working at 100% of capacity, but I knew how to give 100%, even if my body was at 80 or 70 or 60% in those down moments. And that gave me the confidence to keep going no matter what. 1989, amazing race. Dave Scott and I won by 58 seconds, the first of 6 wins. 7 tries to get it right. But one of the real lessons was how I went into that event. You see, I was trying to be like Dave Scott and try to race like he did because he was so strong. He had won 6 Ironman titles there. He knew how to do it. But the way he raced was very different than the way that I raced my best. He liked to control the race, to be in the front, to just like be this almost like Hulk kind of a person. My best races were done when I raced very different than that. I would go into a race thinking, well, let me see what it's going to take to win. Let me find out during the event. I don't need to control it. I just need to respond to it. And so in 1989, instead of trying to be Dave Scott, I said, let me be myself. Is that a great lesson for life? Pull something amazing out because you finally are true to yourself. The following year, 1990, second place was Scott Tinley, a 2-time Ironman World Champion. It was my biggest margin of victory ever. It was an affirmation that if I did the right work, if I was patient, if I came back again, that I could find that solution once again to be the Ironman World Champion. The next year, the challenger was Greg Welsh. He and I had competed in a half Ironman in Texas just a few weeks prior to Kona, kind of our final tune-up race, I had been having some hamstring issues. We came off the bike together a mile and a half into it. He was gone. I had to pull out because my hamstring locked up, and if I ran another step, I was going to rip it. So now for the next 4 to 5 weeks, I can only jog, easy at best, getting ready for the Ironman in Hawaii. Greg and I came off the bike together, literally. He started at a very amazingly fast pace. I could tell he was like, let me drop him quick. The first few steps, the hamstring got tighter and tighter and tighter, and then all of a sudden it just went and loosened up. And I knew that I could do it. Lesson learned, even if you're not sure if you can finish something, even if you're not sure if you can do it at the level you want, go for it anyway and see what happens. Take that next step. The following year, the challenger was Christian Bustos of Chile. He had outrun me in every triathlon we did that year prior to Kona. We came off the bike together. He pulled away right away, put about a minute and a half on me. It took me several miles to close that gap. I knew I couldn't let him go that early in the marathon. I pulled up next to him. He looked over and he sped up again. Now my mind's going crazy with stuff that doesn't help me out. Christian, he's so strong, he's outrun me in all these other races, he's going to pull away now. There's no way I can win this title again. And then I got my mind to be quiet. Finally, it went quiet. There it was. When we are quiet, that's where true potential lies, isn't it? When I finally was quiet, I didn't judge it. I didn't say he's going to win. I didn't say I'm going to lose. I was just quiet. It got this much easier to stay with Christian. A few miles later, I knew I could do it. That was the lesson from that race. Quiet your mind. The following year, it was Pauli Kiuru of Finland. He had about 7-minute lead on me at one point in the marathon. It was very hard to keep going because my body coming off the bike wasn't responding the way I normally do. Finally, about 5 miles into the marathon, things started to loosen up and my energy started to come back. But I knew that I had to be very, very patient, because if I tried to close the gap on an easy part of the marathon course, he's still running fast. There's nothing that's going to slow him down. So I knew I had to wait until the energy lab, the most challenging part of the marathon course at that point that was left in the run. A mile downhill, easy. The next mile, dead flat, no fans. It's quiet. You're by yourself. Pauli's ahead of me, but he's struggling. I'm saying this is where I'm going to do it. I made the turn at the far end of the energy lab. Now I have 2 miles to get back out of it. The first mile, dead flat, nobody cheering. I was closing the gap, and then we hit the mile to get out of the energy lab, very long, gradual uphill with tailwind in 90-degree heat. So you feel like a radiator that's going to blow completely. But I knew that it was temporary. I knew I could go as hard as I wanted, let my body temperature go as high as it could, because once I made the right turn out on the Queen K, the wind would come from my side and it would start to cool me off again. That's where I made the move. That's where I caught Pauli and went on to win that title. Lesson learned, be patient, make your strikes, make your attacks, make your impact in the moments where it can truly count. The final Ironman, 1995, Thomas Hellriegel, 13.5 minutes lead ahead of me off of the bike. I thought I was having the worst Ironman of my life. 13.5 minutes behind the leader. That was the farthest I had been out of the lead ever starting the marathon. But you never know what kind of race you're having in the race. It's only after it's done that you can look back and know whether it was a good or bad race. I was running, I was trying to catch him with 8 miles to go. I was 4 minutes back. Basically, at the start of the marathon, I had to make up 30 seconds a mile, every single mile of that marathon, to catch him at the finish line. With 8 miles to go, 4-minute gap, I still had to make up 30 seconds a mile to catch him at the finish line. It was not enough to catch him before the finish line. I needed something else. My mind was going crazy once again. Shut up. Be quiet. Get your mind to be quiet. My teacher, Brant Secunda, had said, if you need help, call out to that big island. It will help you. It's alive. It will hear you. And I called out. I said, hey, big island, help me. I'm going to give everything I have, every step of these closing 8 miles, even if I completely blow up, come in an inch behind Hell Regal, 10 seconds, end up walking. I don't care. But I need something else. The next mile I made up 40 seconds. The one after that a little over 50. The one after that I made up 1 minute and 15 seconds on the guy who'd been leading for over 6 hours. Finally at mile 23 I made the final pass of my Ironman career. Went on to win that 6th title. Lesson learned, many, many, many. One of them was that the greatest victories are never seen. On tape, it looked like I just had everything under control. Phil Liggett, one of the commentators, said, he's like a robot in perfect control of his functions. I was struggling. I wanted to quit 1,000 times. But I regrouped. I found that reason to take another step, to keep going, to keep engaged, to give everything I had, even if victory looked impossible. Nobody knows what you had to do to overcome the greatest challenges of your life. They may have seen part of it, but only you know what you had to go through. And because you did what you had to do to get to the other side of all of the challenges that have come your way, you are a better person, a greater person, a stronger person, perhaps a more humble person. And that's powerful. 2021, 2 Ironmans have not happened in Kona, Ironman World Championships. Next year, probably it will take place. There are, I'm sure, lessons that we have all learned or will learn from having that absence in our yearly rhythm. What those lessons are, we might not know until 2022 or maybe even years beyond that. But I'm looking forward to learning what those lessons are. Mondays with Mark Allen. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.